That's what you said before about, their analysis shows a crappy deal for the county.
Yeah, hopefully that's what he says. The only thing, it all hinges on Senate Bill 1.
Hmm.
It all hinges on Senate Bill 1. You know, they went back in session Monday to discuss redistricting. Hopefully they they're supposed to talk about Senate Bill 1, about the implications of it, but I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody.
We're waiting to see what happens downstate. Can we actually, it doesn't seem like it would be prudent to move forward
No.
or do anything today. It's
No,
a
no, but what- Yeah, I don't think there was any intention of doing anything today, just some fact finding. And then also I found out too that Mammoth, Miss Michael knows now, they're in violation. They never filed the that CF1 form by May 15th,
Mhm.
like they were supposed to.
Did any of the other ones?
No, because the other one, something screwed up with the other next Terra. Join the meeting.
They're picking on me. Maybe they thought people were gonna be here to give them a hard time about data centers again.
Maybe.
That's what email's for. I do look at that. Barrage today.
I got a few,
Pardon?
a few.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Bill? Is anybody?
I talked to him a week ago and he said, how's everything at Marlock?
Yeah,
I said he was. I don't mean to make. He's been on a lot with that firehouse project. But I heard
Yeah.
somebody called Mark a
Have they
gorgeous
started,
old
like-
man. They've started like the process of like, it was like, there's Mandy.
Ready whenever you want.
All right, 4 o'clock. Let's start with the resolution, please.
Oh, that is it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, it's November 6th. Special meeting of the Stark County Council. The purpose of this meeting is to have Baker Tilly give us their best interpretation of the EDA and the ERA that was presented to us by Nextera.
Still says we're muted.
I'm not repeating anything I said.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, Greg,
Hello, everyone. Greg Balsano, Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. Our firm is a financial advisor across the state of Indiana, helping counties, cities, towns, schools, libraries with different financial matters. One of those being looking at renewable energy type projects and evaluating proposals, looking at what these proposals could mean for the future in terms of abatements, economic development payments, the impacts with assessed value, different things like that. So I'm happy, I'll kind of start with just a general on these types of projects, how they're assessed and how they work. Again, so these projects, most of the benefit in terms of an assessed value basis comes from utility. That is the panels themselves of property, right? So that's the personal property. If you've heard that term before, that's the similar version of that. There is some real property that can be assessed from increases in land assessed value, conversion from farmland typically to the solar land. And then additionally, there can be increases due to other real property improvements, but the majority is from the utility property. Back when these projects started coming into Indiana, you'll hear the term megawatts, how many megawatts do these operations produce? And oftentimes a amount per megawatt was determined for economic development payment purposes. And so what I mean by that is, let's say $10,000 per megawatt, that's how much the company paid to the county in the form of new money, right? Whatever that amount would be. Economic development payments in the state of Indiana represent new dollars. So new dollars that the county can use. And from what I've heard from attorneys, it really can be used for any legal purpose that you could use other monies for. Whereas assessed value, increases in assessed value in a community really go to drive down tax rates. And so in the state of Indiana, taxpayers pay a piece of the pie, and the state dictates how much that revenue can grow each year for most funds, not all, but most funds. So usually that's around 4% a year. So if you think about that, your revenues are growing roughly 4% a year in terms of your tax levies. As the assessed value increases, the lower the tax rates need to be to support that levy, and vice versa, right? If assessed values are declining, tax rates have to go up to support whatever the levy is for the county, school, etc. Whereas economic development payments are new dollars, right? New dollars that the county can use. And so we were asked to look at kind of the economic development payments that are used in negotiations as the county negotiates with the company on terms and such. And we were asked to kind of look at a 15-year 100% tax abatement is what was being proposed, and evaluate how much the company was saving versus how much they're paying in economic development payments back to the county. Right. So how much in tax dollars were they saving versus that? I want to note that one big change, everyone's probably very well aware of Senate Bill 1 and the impacts that has on communities. One of the changes that did go into effect with Senate Bill 1 is the floor for utility and personal property. For new investment that's made post January 1, 2025, there is no longer that floor requirement of 30%. So historically, those types of properties could only be depreciated down to 30%. For new investment, if it's not already located within a tip area, that investment can now go below that floor. There is no floor for utility property. Now, having said that, with these projects, there's a lot of projects across the state that are currently in negotiation. Counties are looking at these projects, and that is a topic that is under conversation in terms of why you're negotiating the economic development agreements. Is there a requirement that that company maintains a floor, right? A minimum assessed value. I know in the agreement that we last saw, I think that is in there, that there's a minimum assessed value requirement of that 30% of investment. So what it was prior to Senate Bill 1. So just wanted to note that that is a new topic of conversation. And a lot of the agreements we're seeing that is being discussed is to acquire.
You said investment, you mean assessment, right? Like it would maintain 30%. It wouldn't go below 30.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because you said investment.
Yeah, so that,
You meant assessment.
well, you're right, it is assessment, but that the investment is what is depreciated down. So for example, in phase 1 of this project, I think the estimated taxable investment is $340 million.
Right.
And so that would get depreciated to, if that requirement was in there, no less than 30% of that number. So it could get depreciated down, and then once it hits 30%, if that requirement is in your economic development agreement, which is the last version I saw, it can't go below 30% of 340 million. And so that 30% is 102
And
million.
there's nothing that legally prevents us moving forward by having some kind of clause in there about that.
Not that I'm aware of.
We would definitely want to protect that.
Yeah.
Still moving forward.
Because that does protect your assessed value. Otherwise, theoretically, under the current now provisions, if that wasn't in there, the company could take that value all the way down to zero.
Sure, yeah.
And then there's no assessed value from that type of property coming in. It'd just be from the increase in land and stuff like that. That is an important topic, absolutely. So with economic development payments, oftentimes they are, the company, the more that they save, oftentimes the more that they're potentially willing to provide back. That's not always the case, but sometimes that's how it's looked. So I think in their current economic development agreement that I saw, and again, just looking at phase 1, the ED agreement has about $8.4 million, I believe is the current discussion point of what the money is, if I have that correctly, and that would be paid over the 15 years of the abatement structure. If you take a present value of that, and so just looking, rough at 4.5% is kind of what we just looked at. And as present value dollars, that is worth 6.3 million. So that's what that's worth in today's dollars, roughly, if you're looking at that offer. Where we've seen a lot of offers, and again, there's a lot of projects currently being negotiated, but where we saw a lot of offers at before Senate Bill 1 at least start at a starting point is kind of a formula we've seen where it's a certain amount per megawatt. We've typically seen anywhere from $15,000 to $16,000 per megawatt, plus the difference in savings from whatever abatement's being considered and a 10-year traditional abatement. So a 10-year traditional abatement is 190, 80, 70, 60 down to 0 over 10 years.
Are you sure about the 15,000?
Yeah. 16,000 is.
All right, 16,000 per megawatt?
That's what they said they were negotiating. Oh, that wasn't talking about this.
But I don't even, they don't charge 16,000 a megawatt. Are you sure it's not 1,600?
So this is just, I'm saying where negotiations typically start on the economic development payments. That's not this one necessarily. I'm just saying I've seen like agreements last year, some of them have come in starting at 16,000 per megawatt plus the difference in.
Would you mind emailing Todd where we can look those up too? I'd like to see where those ended up, because that's a really high number.
Yeah, that's.
Well, 16,000 per megawatt alone is just 3.2 million. So that's not per year. That's total. So because there's about 200 megawatts.
So that's 1,600 a year then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 16,000 total, not per year.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they don't charge that much for it. I'm just thinking, how could they they lose money on the power?
Sure. So,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, so again, this is just where negotiations can go anywhere, right? It is a negotiation. oftentimes just where we see counties start is roughly this area, right? Around 16,000 per megawatt total for the life of the term. So if you take 16,000 times 200 megawatts, right, that's that 3.2 million I mentioned roughly. And if you divide that over the 15 years, that's about little over $200,000 a year. Now, on top of that is the second part that I mentioned to the formula, the difference in abatement savings between whatever abatement's being discussed, in this case, the 15-year 100%, and a 10-year traditional. So the more that, because they're saving more dollars than a traditional abatement, they would pay a portion of that back through an economic development payment. Right, so the difference that they would be saving, if you're looking at tax dollars, is about $12.6 million, meaning that they're saving that much more because of the 15-year 100 versus a 10-year where it goes 190, 80, 70, 60 down to zero. Present value, all of these dollars I'm talking about. So the total of those two numbers is 15.8, right? So the first part of the formula is that amount per megawatt. The second part is that the difference in abatement savings. That total is 15.8 million. So if you present value that, that's about 11.8. So if you're just, we're comparing present values, again, this is just looking at phase one. That's 11.8 versus the present value, I think, of the current offer or current discussion is 6.3.
Yeah, so it's almost not quite, a little bit more than half.
Correct. And again, this is for phase one. And so the company, just if you wanted to look at it, comparison, they are saving just total. So with this 15-year 100% abatement, they are saving $23 million gross. And if you present value that at the same rate, that's 17.4 million. So they're saving 17.4, and in our calculation, they would pay 11.8. And again, that is not necessarily where every county lands, where every discussion lands. Those payments can be discussed as front loading them, meaning maybe you get less, but you're getting them over a sooner time frame. They can be pushed farther, meaning maybe you get a little more over the longer term, but less. If that makes sense. You can really do these however you best see fit for the county, and obviously whatever the company will agree to during your discussions. And so that's kind of a general sense of the economic development payment. And again, that does assume that the 30% floor requirement remains in place. If that doesn't, then they're obviously saving less money because they're paying less in taxes because their investment's going down quicker. So again, that's just phase one. Phase two, same kind of math. I can just give you the ending point numbers here. So looking at that phase two is a smaller investment. It's not quite the 340 million that we discussed in phase one. It's also less than megawatts. So phase two is $110 million investment. So that 30% floor is $33 million of taxable assessed value. And then those ending numbers kindly, the current ED agreement is about $2.9 million of gross value. And doing the formula we discussed, it'll be about 5.7. So if you present value those two numbers, looking at those, the formula we discussed is about 4.25. What's currently being discussed is about 2.15 million. So a difference of just around $2 million in terms of a present value. And so again, that's just using that formula, and that's getting paid over a 15-year period. But as I mentioned, in negotiations, you can certainly negotiate however you guys would like. But that's just kind of, like I said, we've worked on a lot of these projects across the state and kind of taking the knowledge we've seen in agreements that were done in the past few years. That's kind of oftentimes a starting point as to where we see negotiations. Again, sometimes they end up a bit less through negotiating. Sometimes they're a bit more, just depends on how that process goes with your attorneys and company.
Mike, I'm confused. I thought what we were trying to figure out was the value of leaving it on the tax base versus the payment per kilowatt or megawatt.
Well, that's,
Has that been explained? Because I don't know that I'm smart enough to understand it. I want to know what the value is to the county if we leave it on the tax roll versus which is better for Stark County.
Sure.
That's what I was wanting to know.
Yeah, I can certainly speak on the benefits of doing the opposite approach, kind of if you didn't give an abatement or you gave much less of an abatement. So for the negatives, it probably means that they offer less in economic development payment because they'd be saving less. So that'd be less, that doesn't necessarily mean that, but that would mean less new dollars for the county to be able to use for projects. The positive side of not abating it or giving lesser of an abatement would be that assessed value would flow through to the tax base. And as we talked about kind of in the beginning, more assessed value means a lower tax rate.
Well, and that's my question. Why is it such a bad idea for the tax rates to go down to our taxpayers? Because in my personal opinion, they can spend that money a lot better than the county
I
can.
agree.
I realize the county has to survive. But if we do a little of both, I don't see the harm.
No, there's no harm. That's just kind of the pros and cons. And like I said, you guys are there to make the decisions and yeah, there's just pros and cons to each. So yeah, that's.
We've been told that all this tax money is gonna go down to the state, that it's not gonna affect the tax bases in Stark County. And I'm old school and I'm not gonna say how long I've been around, but we are in a frozen levy. And it appears to me if the tax rates, if the tax monies would come in, then the tax rates have to go down. I've been told that the taxpayers in Stark County will not reap those benefits. And I'm sitting here wondering why. Is that so?
Pardon me?
Bill's on.
Oh, it's okay.
If you give it 100% abatement for 15 years, that's the taxpayers aren't seeing much of a benefit in terms of assessed value or tax rates because there's no assessed value coming through, right? That's not much, I should say. There's still the increase in land and some other pieces, but that 340 million investment we talked about, that assessed value that's resulted from that is not going to the tax base, right? It's being abated. It means there's no assessed value there, or because in 100%, it's zero. So there are counties that do either no abatement or less of an abatement. For example, a 10-year declining is 190, 80, 70, 60, right? So some of that assessed value is coming online each year. Again, the flip side of that is it means likely a little bit less economic development payment, more than likely. Not always, but again, so that's kind of that trade-off. So.
But I think what Bruce is asking you, and I don't mean to speak for you, but let me know if that's.
Somebody help me.
I think what you wanna help with though is which one has more value, like
That's
what
what I
more
was
bang
saying.
for the buck, the EDA. Or letting the taxpayers just fly with it. Now, the one thing that Bruce is, because I've been the one that, I've said this a lot
Yeah.
and a lot in public, so I'm gonna take ownership of this because. It's been brought up many times, but we do have a frozen levy.
Sure.
So it's not like we can go and ask for this money from the state
Right.
to increase, to be able to do projects.
Right.
And so the idea is like, let's say, for example, we wanted to build something. It's gonna cost $5 million today. At the end of that 15 years, it's probably gonna cost 35 million.
Sure.
So that's the idea, is that you can do things with that money to benefit the county earlier. And that triggers economic development, that triggers investment, that triggers people moving into the county, that triggers the school growing, and then thereby also the quality of the school growing. So like, that's the idea of it.
But it depends on how we spend the money. I mean, all we can say it can help the
Well,
school.
I'm just gonna assume that we're elected to spend it right.
Well, yeah, no, and I'm not disputing that.
Well, but we're not gonna be here forever either. We're gonna.
Concerns, because not everybody's as conservative
I got you.
as some of us on this board, and that's the part that scares me.
Yeah,
Please.
go ahead.
I just, on Bruce's question and what Dave was trying to say, I'd like to phrase it a different way. For every $100 of economic development payment that the county gets, if the county chose to just let the money go through taxes,
I know.
what are the number of dollars compared to that every 100 that the taxpayers save on in less taxes?
Yeah, so think of it as, so forgetting the abatement and the economic development payments for a moment. If you just had a new project come in, it's new assessed value. Every dollar, if you hold everything else constant, just look at, current situation plus current situation with this project, right? The amount of taxes that company pays, it reduces everyone else's tax bills by that same amount. And so if that company pays $1 million in taxes a year, everyone else in the county, it combined, total, pays $1 million less. Again, that's just holding all else constant.
That's exactly what Bruce is getting at. How does that number compare to the economic development payment if they went that route?
I'm not trying to be pro or con here.
Well, he
I'm just trying to put it on a scale.
pretty much just explained it.
Yeah.
If they're offering us, whatever, that $400,000 a year. And it's an upfront payment, but if they're paying $1 million tax, the taxpayers are gonna reap the benefits.
Divided by how many people are
Yeah.
paying tax.
And I mean, what are we gonna do? If we took that payment and divided it by every taxpayer in the county, that 500,000, you get like $20.
Right. Which the Purdue study did do
Yeah.
that.
It's really a. And again, I'm not here to say I'm not for the project, against project.
I understand.
I just want to give you guys whatever facts you need.
Yeah, that's all this is. It's just a fact finding.
And so, yeah, so for, you know, the economic development payment, think of it, that's new money. That's new dollars for the county. Otherwise, they could not be generated, as you mentioned, because there's frozen levies and such. So that's money that the county can do projects with. The flip side of that, if you just take two extremes and we got no economic development payment, but no abatement, that is money that the taxpayers are saving. And it's close to a 1-to-1. It's not exact, but it's close to that. Again, because the reason I say it's not a 1-for-1 is because there's circuit breaker and there's different things out there. So it's not exact 1-for-1, but if you think of it as the decision really is when you're pumping in the assessed value, if you're getting no economic development payment,
Would save.
the county is really not seeing much new dollars
Saving money.
because everyone's paying less in taxes. There is some new dollars for circuit breaker relief and different things like that. That's why it's not a 1-for-1. But you're not seeing that
County budget.
$1 million for economic, right? You're not seeing that as.
And that sounds to me.
Todd?
Yes.
Speaking of,
Yeah,
can I
go.
ask you- I'm curious, you made a comment earlier, and I'm just curious if, since you guys do this a lot. You said if you don't do the abatement, but you do the EDA, or if you do a lower abatement and the EDA. My understanding, and I'm gonna look for Dave's input here, since he was part of it, is the reason for the EDA is because we're giving them a tax abatement. Have you seen these things come out where they don't give a tax abatement but still require an E EDA?
I'd have to look at a project. I've not, that one doesn't come to mind.
I don't know why you do it.
Say, why would they do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You give them a bigger break and they
Yeah.
put a little bit of money in your pocket to give it, oh, you get it now and you get to have a council deciding.
Yeah, but if they're not gonna give them any tax
But it's
payment,
not-
there's no benefit to do that.
Like.
They get their
to
tax
your
abatement,
point,
they
if
save
maybe
a boatload of
back
money over the long run and
percentage
scraps that up.
100% for 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a decrease or it's
That's what I want,
75.
EDA payments,
And
that's
then
scratch
we still
they
get the
from
EDA
that.
payment, so
That's
Yeah.
maybe the EDA might be a little bit lower, but then you're kind of balancing both,
Yeah.
right? So to Bruce's point, we could still get EDA money and potentially still get a small tax break
Sure.
for the citizens if we didn't go with a 100% abatement.
Yeah, I've,
That's the more traditional version he was talking.
yeah, I've seen all sorts of abatements provided. Like I said, I've seen 10-year traditional, 10-year 75%. I've seen 20-year 100%. The full range of what you could offer abatement, I've seen it somewhere, at least be discussed. Maybe it wasn't end up being approved. But that's really the trade, right? Is
So
in,
to Bruce's point, though, would it be correct that if they're still paying taxes? So if we're not doing 100% abatement, you could get the best of both worlds for Bruce's scenario, where technically the county can make some money to do these developments. Don't do a full 100%, and the citizens could reap that $1 to
If they go
$1
for it.
on whatever they don't.
Well,
with the abatement.
the bottom line to me is, are we collecting enough of them on their per megawatt, okay? Versus the benefit of what we're getting.
Well, you know, we didn't go for the 1,500. when we-
And I give you credit for that. I think, according to what
Thank
he
you.
said, it sounds
Nobody
like,
else has, but thank you. for
no,
that.
according to what he says, it sounds like you guys were pretty shrewd. But I think to ease the minds of a lot of people in the county, the question is what would that do to their tax rates? Some people have a lot more taxes than
That's-
others.
It says $20, he means on 100,000.
Yeah,
So if you have a $200,000 house, it was like $40.
yeah, it would be very complex to go through every parcel in the county and try to figure out what it would be for each individual taxpayer. That would be a daunting task, even in a small
Yeah.
county.
and we can certainly do an analysis that doesn't go maybe in much detail, but maybe shows.
Or you could pull up the Purdue one, like they did it per 100,000 on assessment.
Yeah, that's really all you
Yeah, we could
need.
look at yeah, because, but yeah, everything you guys, I think, are understanding it pretty well. I mean, there's not just two choices, right? There's not getting, a development payment and we give an abatement, or we don't. There can be a mix of all in between. And the side of this that we haven't really spoke about is it also is a negotiation with the company.
So
So,
on phase three, like I'll just say, like Nextera was really clear that what we asked them to give us something, but it was as a negotiation piece, as a breadboard. They didn't say, we expect you to approve this.
sure,
I have a question for you though.
yes, sir.
So Baker Tilly has worked with a lot of counties on
Yes, sir.
solar. So tell the public, because I'd love to know this too. Has anybody that has installed solar in their county not done an EDA with an abatement? Because I know the answer to the question, but I just, maybe you know information that I don't.
I was gonna say that we haven't certainly worked with every single one, so I don't know.
Have you ever heard of anybody not? doing it?
There's only been one that comes to mind that was even discussed. I don't know if that ended up happening, but there was only one that I remember that was being discussed. I've heard companies say that they would come without an abatement. Now, whether that was just posturing, I don't know. But because a lot of times what I hear from the company side of things, and again, you never know without being in their financials, but is that the first few years of the project are often vital in terms of they're looking for significant savings in those first couple of years to get the project going and underway. Again, is that true for in every case, or is that true at all? I don't know without there knowing their financials, but and that's not just these types of projects, that's often a lot of projects is that's why that 10-year traditional starts with 100%, because oftentimes companies are looking for the biggest breaks in the earliest years to get their project moving.
Is ours 100% for the full 15 years? I don't remember. I haven't looked at it in forever.
You mean the current ones?
Yeah.
The current ones that we have, they were 20 years, the first ones,
Mhm.
and they were 100% for the entire 20 years.
They were both 20.
20, okay, and then the new one that we're looking at is 15. 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
But what is that for? Kilowatt, megawatt, what?
No, that's just the property. That's just the. It's just the abatement of equipment.
15 years.
Versus doing a staggered like he's talking about, Bruce. That's what I wanted to
But
understand.
he said what I wanted to hear. He was talking about 1,600 versus I think we got 2,500. Is that correct, Dave?
28.
28. So, I wish my arm was longer. I'd pat you on the back from here.
No,
But no, I know.
I know, my point was just that it's negotiable, like they start,
Yeah.
because they started with us at 14, I think, or.
Oh, sure.
15.
Yeah, they're gonna start low there.
You remember, Larry?
Was involved in that.
I thought you were around at economic development. so-
I was working
Yeah.
over there, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I
involved.
thought maybe you were at some of those meetings.
I'm just gonna tell you what, this is what happened. You wanna talk about negotiation? You remember the last time we tried to negotiate?
Yes, I would remember.
They said, if you don't take our offer, we're not gonna do the project and we're leaving. And it was a 4-3 vote. So. There,
And the next time around, you negotiated quite a little bit. And
I got more money out in 5 seconds, but they didn't want to negotiate anymore because they knew politics were gonna change. They wanted to shove it down everybody's
Actually, you
throat.
got a bunch of stuff for the fire departments.
Yeah, but it doesn't
I think,
matter.
on it. But I think the fire departments actually have gotten some of that from.
But it's just the whole idea of, if you want to negotiate in good faith, negotiate. Don't threaten us that you're gonna do this, because we're not threatening you that we're gonna do anything. That is not the way to run a partnership.
And there were threats. of
So
lawsuits.
are we here tonight to decide what we're gonna counter offer them or
No.
what?
No, we're
can't
here
do
to
that.
get information from him.
Yeah.
I understand that, but ultimately we're to make a decision what we're gonna do with next year.
Executive session, because that's contract
Yeah,
negotiation.
we should have an executive
Okay,
session.
I got you. Yep.
With who next year, if they need.
But to Bruce's point, do we have to have an executive session though to draft the ED or make the changes to the EDA that
No,
we think are suggested?
But I don't know if we want to talk to them about a negotiation,
Be an executive session.
because we, just like we did with
We
Mammoth,
want that.
or not Mammoth, I'm sorry, Hoosier.
I'm not.
We had executive session
Yeah.
and we talked about it, and there's some other things that I wanted, but we got shoved.
I'm just
because
going
the
to
commission-
Cassie's point, is it legal for us to do that for executive
And
session?
I'm not
As long as we didn't approve it until the public hearing.
And I'm not really talking about what we're gonna make a counter offer. I'm saying we need to be thinking, are we gonna try to do a counter
I would
offer?
say, yes, you always do a counter.
We just gonna say no, we're gonna fall
Well,
back.
I think the thing that we need to do at the next council meeting, not this meeting, is to reject this EDA.
Yes.
And the ERA the way it stands now. In that way, we can negotiate.
Well, I
Because
think
they
they're
don't even
expecting
come.
us, no, they, at least, they've said they expect us. to
Yeah,
negotiate. They never said that we had to say whether we accept that.
No,
one or
no,
not.
I haven't said that. I'm just talking about past
Well,
experience.
no, I'm just saying like
And
rejecting
for-
it though is kind of
to keep
like,
it Procedurally clear
Yeah.
and clean,
Yeah.
reject that one.
Yeah.
And
At a
I
meeting.
don't know, maybe they don't even want to do the project at this
They,
time.
they haven't filed any permits yet. I mean, they were gonna start supposedly in June, but there hasn't been one item. No notice of intent has been filed.
well,
Nothing.
there was a lot of discussion from the county if they put a shovel in the ground that we couldn't do an EDA then, so it would make sense if they're interested in EDA to wait.
Then they should be coming to us and saying, hey, we want to negotiate. But I guess we'll just have to, the next council meeting, we'll put this on the agenda. And then we'll vote on it, then we can negotiate.
Yeah,
And
so-
that's all I know to figure out
Mandy?
what our direct.
When was the Purdue study done? Do you know?
How long ago?
It's been a while,
It was probably what,
I think it was before Bruce.
21 or 2, maybe?
maybe earlier than that.
Maybe.
So it's fair to say that that assessment is probably not up to date since Senate Bill 1. and
No,
changes.
that's why Todd commissioned this one, was
Yeah.
to get an updated one.
Yeah.
This is the most updated one.
It
Yes.
may be relative
But
at
I
some
think
point.
he's asking about
Well, we're
that one
talking
because
about
a few times you've said, well, we can refer back to that study, but I don't think we want to since it's obsolete.
Yeah,
Well, the percentages are still gonna be the
Yeah, the
same.
percentage will be the same. And the thing is, the general session is in session now. I know they're in session about redistricting, but
yeah, but Senate Bill 1 changes our tax rate
yeah. Well, not so much next
What
year.
Purdue,
from residential and farm and.
There's still a chance there could be changes in Senate Bill 1 this year yet in the special session.
Yeah.
After
That they could what, Todd?
they could change possibly. I don't know this for a fact, but yeah, they're going way up.
Go down,
Yeah.
and utilities gonna go up.
It's gonna be interesting for the farmers, because you know, I've been saying that for a long time, that the assessed value didn't seem like it was growing on the farmland like the rest of the land. I agree with you there, but I think there's gonna be a lot of remonstrance from farmers on
Yeah,
it, because they are gonna try to raise it, you're right,
they're putting it all on them, really,
yes,
big time.
yes.
Well, the sad thing
So-
is our representative is the vice president of the Farm Bureau.
So does anybody else in the public have questions?
No, this is because I just wanted to make sure I understood Bruce's point about future council folks and that concern. I guess the only thing I pointed to is, that's kind of what elections are, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I, you mean about how things are spent?
yeah, how to, like maybe.
I think there's a lot of things that we can do from this council to look to the future in order to kind of, my biggest fear is people just spending money like crazy.
Right, and my own point is I would just like to put faith in
It was picking his voice up, his music.
You put those in mind and all those types of people that.
Could I say something though about solar? Well, because it'd be a good time just to like air some things that we heard. The one thing that I still hear a lot from people that talk to me about solar is I hear that they're sending the electricity out of the county. There's really no choice. for
Every
that.
electricity goes out,
Well,
it goes in the grid.
NIPSCO's taking a bunch of it, but it goes to two grids.
Well,
It's two
It's always-
grids.
if
You
you
know.
put your money in a bank. Or if you put your corn in the elevator, the minute that corn leaves the back of the truck, or the minute that money goes into the bank, it loses its identity.
Yeah,
It becomes a big pool.
yeah, I mean,
So are we using the electric that we're generating here? We're using somebody's electric, it
Yeah,
just
they
loses
have electric.
its identity.
it all goes into the grid and then it goes wherever they sell it to, however the demand is.
Yeah,
I mean-
as long as we got enough power here.
Yeah, I mean,
right, right.
Well, if we have a bigger consumer here, they might buy it, or if a company moved in that needed power, they might buy it.
So. Anybody else have anything? This goes,
I have a question.
Okay.
And maybe it's better suited, and if it is, just stop me.
I will.
For when you guys do get through the negotiations, but I'm curious to know, and I know our attorney's not here. So we gave a tax abatement to NextEra in 2022, their first one. They're not showing up as an abated company on Michaeline's report. We've not received any CF1 forms from any of the solar companies.
no, they're all in non-compliance.
They're all in non-compliance for that. going to the next phase of that, my next question is, and thankfully Mandy's here, is, has anybody on the council stopped to find out if the original tax abatement and EDA agreement that we have with NextEra's first project is even still valid, because they are no longer in business and NIPSCO now owns it. So maybe that's why they're not showing up on the tax abatement form. And there is technically, from what I read on our EDA, and I'm not an attorney, so Cassie, I'll look at you, is that in order for them to do that, they should have came in front of the council for an amendment approval of some sort. But-
I'm not sure, most contracts that I see that are written by lawyers will have provisions in there that this contract is assignable.
Assignable,
Mhm.
right?
And sometimes they have to have the consent, like, for a very basic example is a real estate land contract. Can the buyer sell while under land contract to this one seller? Can the buyer sell the property to someone else? Usually those contracts say yes, but with the written consent of the seller. So it would depend on, I'm not sure if our EDA says they can assign it, but only with the written consent of the municipality. It probably doesn't, since they were the ones that wrote it.
I feel like it actually does, but either way, then my next question is. Our utilities, I mean, could a utility just say, well, we're not doing this. We didn't sign it, we took over the project, we don't want the tax abatement. And we don't want.
And that would
EDA.
probably depend on the contract between NIPSCO and NextEra to say, and it probably says that the person assuming this contract, or the entity NIPSCO, is on the hook in just the same way that NextEra was. It probably, it should say that, but of course we don't know.
The company is, I mean, they.
And those aren't
literally-
public record as far as I know.
But they literally defunct.
We did get a
entire-
big payment from NIPSCO this year for solar,
From NIPSCO.
from NIPSCO.
So maybe that's,
Was it in line with what?
Survive,
next year?
survive,
It was like, I don't know what, because I wasn't here when all that agreement was made, so I don't know.
Sorry.
But it
Not
was like, if I remember right, it was like $300,000 or $400,000 from NIPSCO. And it said, because when I called them and asked them about it, they
Well,
said it was for solar.
That would have been that then.
that would have been that.
Yeah.
But then do they still also have to I mean, they've got an abatement. So my question is still about the abatement and the.
Well, our-
Payment should have been.
The county attorney is aware of all of it,
All of the non-compliant.
all the non-compliance. And he's looking into it, and then that's gonna be on our agenda for the next meeting.
Because if they're in non-compliance, from what I recall from my research late last year into the CF forms being filed every year, is we can revoke their tax abatement.
Has
Well,
to
you
be,
can
has to be a
revoke it,
public
but you
hearing,
can
it can be
still
revoked,
to pay the EDA.
and we'll still maintain the EDA, keep the E EDA.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, we
So-
get both, we get tax money and the EDA money.
I'm just gonna say personally, I don't like the sound of defaulting a partnership. So I'm not subscribing to that. I'm just saying, that's just me. But I would not want to do that to a partner. We got into a partnership with them.
Length business transaction, it's not a partnership.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I would think
Money.
big companies like that would know they were supposed to file that in a timely manner. May 15th was the date, and here we are in November.
Well, I'm not sure we got them on
You're gonna have
24.
those tomorrow.
Right, that's what I mean, that's 5 months late.
But so,
And I don't
just
think
made
it-
aware of it. this
I think
morning,
it would-
so.
Glenn said she has sent emails to your company and prior about it. We shouldn't have to remind you to do something that you're supposed to do.
By
Well,
law.
we don't have
By law.
24, 23. I mean, we don't have any on file.
We don't have any of
This will be the first.
I don't know, because I
You
can't,
just can't
I
find.
can't find it,
Is there any reason why? they
because
should?
I wasn't here back.
No, I understand.
I'm not sure.
Probably because nobody has paid attention to it.
Fine, though.
And so they don't have.
So does anybody have anything else?
Them have to care.
Now,
about it.
we have one business for the council, if the council chooses to take this business up. We have a appropriation reduction resolution rainy day fund from North Judson Schools
Oh, that's right.
that they would like for us, that we have to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve. it.
It's to reduce the rainy day fund by $432,683. If we would act on that tonight, since it affects almost
That's
that,
their rainy day fund.
yes, that is
And
no
so,
Judson's.
to me,
Nothing to
there's
do with
no
us.
reason why we shouldn't move if that's what they desire.
I feel like they do a good job too, but I
Yeah.
did ask Justin, this, I don't know if he responded to me or not, but when Todd brought that up. There's a reduction in the rainy day fund. Where is that going?
He doesn't say
It's
that.
not really clear, is it? Like, do you guys,
Probably
maybe-
going to all the money they're gonna lose under SB1.
but yeah, like maybe their general fund or something, but I mean, like, wouldn't we normally just wanna know that? Just,
It does not say it.
If they had an elected school board, it wouldn't even come in front of us, correct?
right.
So I don't,
I just don't know if we should be asking that though, like, where is it going? Because it is like a reduction in the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is a fund that has a balance in it. So it's being removed. I'm just asking, would it
Well-
be, you know,
I'm gonna leave
Who
my
has to
motion
know?
on the floor. If anybody wants to
Second
second
it.
it, fine. If not.
Okay, we
that's
have
fine.
motion by Bruce, second by Cassie.
I'm still an I.
Okay,
I just, I would
Okay,
like
and
to
I,
know.
yeah, I understand. what
okay,
you're saying.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. If there's no other business for the county council, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Kate, second by Cassie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So you guys need to sign this before we leave.
Thank
So-
you for your information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very helpful.
Please let me know to run additional reports.
Yeah.
Let me know what you need.
I realize.
All right. That if the tax rate goes down, it's impossible.
We maintain that amount.
You know, my thing is that it does go back to it does go back to the top being. It's just such a small amount compared to what we. 20 bucks. This is for me, like,